Hello, everyone. My name is Ern. I buy, sell, trade, collect, vet, and grade, and this is my channel where I talk about all things in the hobby as someone trying to find their way and self-sustain themselves in this amazing, amazing hobby of cards. Welcome back to the channel where I talk about a stream of consciousness of things. And first things first, if you've not liked, comment, and subscribed on the previous upload about the wonderful Moltres UPC, I'll be giving away a 151 bundle randomly to someone. I will pick it next week. I will record myself picking that winner. So good luck to you. And thanks to my SOS calling out to Adam Zong. He has successfully claimed his 151 bundle after several weeks. So Adam, I will get back to you on the shipping and tracking later tonight. And shame on you all for pretending to be him and also wishing he wouldn't claim it. He deserves it. Long-time supporter of the channel. Anyway, today's video is going to be fun. Actually, sorry, another announcement. If you did not catch that other video, then you would not know about this. I have two podcasts coming up. One is next week, next Wednesday at 7 p.m. PST. All the information is down below. I will be joining good old Ricky at Uyama's Trading and Jar Chomp and their Midweek Machamps podcast. I'm excited to talk to them both. Excited to, just talk about things in the hobby. And, they have graciously asked me to be on to talk about, whatever. So I'm honored and can't wait for that. The following weekend, so the following weekend, the September 14th, sorry, I don't know why my voice did like that. So the following weekend, the 14th of September, which is a Sunday, around 11 or 12 Pacific time, I'll be joining Bonnie Tastic and Pokemonster TCG to talk about Japanese cards, I assume, as someone who was and is a big Japanese collector. They're both based out of Europe. I imagine probably the UK, if I had to guess. So we'll be talking about Japanese cards, Japanese sealed, and really just, the hobby as well. So 2 awesome podcasts coming up. Check them out. Information will be down below. Tune in on the socials, Instagram, that kind of thing. And I think that's it. Okay. In today's video, we're going to talk about the state of the business, my business, and what I've sold through in August. You've probably clicked on the video because of the thumbnail. Sorry, if I am like swerving and fast and furious and Need for Speeding, it's because I have to go to an alternate route through the city because the traffic to where I usually go for the exit to the highway is like incredibly backed up. So just calling that out. Business rundown, what I've sold through in August. And let me start off and just say, I'm not a full-time cards seller. I'm a collector first, seller. I was a collector first, seller second. I'm now a seller first, collector second, just being honest. And part of that's because the origin story, the Batman origin story goes, I spent a lot of money, still spend a lot of money on cards early in COVID as like a collector, an untamed collector, just buying and hoarding things. It wasn't until 2, maybe 3, going on 2 years, 2.5 years, where I started to take selling seriously. And I did that because money is not infinite, does not grow in trees. And I just needed to figure out a way to self-sustain the hobby without, pulling out personal money. And, I think a lot of us get to that point who are selling where you realize that like you can't always be spending money. You got to figure out ways and a plan of attack to make money back, whether that's through flipping. Some people do investing. Some people do, a lot of different things. So that's my story. And the main thing that you should keep in mind is I'm only playing with house money at this point, not money I use for the house, money I've won from the house. Basically, I don't pull any personal money out to pay for things. I am fortunate. I am grateful. I've done really well on the selling front and accidentally investing. So some of the stuff I bought years ago did appreciate well over time. And so I've been able to self-sustain myself in this side hustle for a handful of years now. And I am really grateful for that. That's primarily why I preach learning how to sell and learning how to building your collection through selling. Because if you're constantly spending money that is high opportunity cost, so like rent money, bill money, food money, you're making trade-offs day to day to buy cards, which most people in the hobby do that, right? Most people have to make a decision of like, what do I spend my paycheck on this week? And I understand I'm fortunate to be in the position I am. I've said that multiple times. Um, but I've been able to kind of roll profits, and that's really the name of the game for me, is constantly rolling profits into bigger and better things, making more margins, selling more things, buying more things. And so it just kind of self-sustains itself at this point. So I'm happy to say in the month of August to date, I've sold, by the time this video comes out, 65,000, but I'm just going to say an even 60 because that's what the thumbnail is going to show. It's probably going to show like 59,400 or whatever. And that's like money into the checking account through selling. That's not profit margin. That is not, it's not profit margin. I have not done the math to date, but if I had to guess, it's probably between 30, 40%, 45%, if I had to guess. And I have a rough math in my head because I haven't done it to the T for all the things that have come back. But generally, when I buy things, I'm not going to buy them and then plan on selling them unless I make at least 30%, 25%. And so that is a key distinction for me as like a hobbyist and as someone who doesn't have to live off of this full time. I can make more deliberate and conscious decisions because I don't have to pull out the money to pay for bills. I don't have to pull out the money to pay for things. And so I can pick and choose, grading plays, sealed plays, different games, different cards, that kind of thing to satisfy those requirements. As a business owner who's full time, that is very hard to do. I will probably talk about going full time in the podcast with Ricky and with Jar Chomp, why I choose not to do it. The main reason why is a lot of the margin goals that you have, there aren't enough opportunities to fill them. So you're kind of resorted to a model where you churn and burn and you're buying at specific percentages, which it's fine. But unless you can go to shows and you have a robust online business, like it's really hard to do that. Anyway, I won't get into that. Um, my For additional context, last year I did a little under 300,000 in sales as like a hobbyist. This year I actually was expecting to do about the same, because I decided I took on a full-time job, a corporate full-time job, and I didn't think I was going to be able to sell as much. Lo and behold, the last year has basically just been like a whole new era of the boom has been ridiculously great for everyone who's a seller. And so I haven't, um, if I had to guess, I will probably get close to 500,000 this year in total sales, which is awesome. Awesome for me, a great goal. I feel proud about it. It's also not, how should I say this? It's not enough to go full time. Um, Really, if you want to go full time, you'd be looking at 800 to a million in gross sales, assuming you make a profit margin of at least 15, 20%. And yeah, it means your take home would be anywhere between 120, if at 800,000, 120 to 120,000 profit after taxes. If you're full time, you got to pay health insurance, taxes, pay for rent. You're not looking at that much better than a full time job that probably will pay, a percentage of that. So anyway, that's why I don't go full time. This year's going to be great. I'm doing well. That's how much I expect to sell. Long introduction. Let's get into what I have sold, and let's just go through the top and rank them one by one. Okay, sorry to take a breather. First up, Van Gogh Pikachu. The one and only, the fire of all high pop odds. Makes no sense really. Outside of demand is just that crazy. The key thing with Van Gogh Pikachu is um, they are not easy to source in the United States. And so, at least in my experience, if you're going to buy raw ones to grade, most of the supply in the US from the people I've talked to has been tapped, has been preconditioned or looked through, even if it's sealed. So, as a result, many months ago, one of my friends, my connections out of Europe, him and I decided to do a little joint venture of sorts for him to supply me with Van Gogh Pikachus, and I would pay him a premium. Um, First, I actually ended up paying him a percentage of PSA 10s. And then obviously over time that was a very risky business for me. Um, and then I ended up paying him just a higher fee over sealed just to guarantee that they were well conditioned or they were bought blind. And I trust them and stuff. And so what I ended up doing is I ended up grading a handful of them with CJ. So all in all, I've sold not for the month of August, but in total over the last 3 months. I think we're at probably like 80, 70 or 80, maybe a little bit more than that. Sealed Van Gogh Pikachus. And I bought them all at a cost of between like 250 and 350, depending on the time frame, right? Um, I would say a quarter of them ended up not being gradable, not being what I wanted to grade. And then the rest are mixtures of like 9s and 10s across PSA and CGC. I graded many with PSA. I did not get as many 10s as I had hoped. Is it my pre-grading? Maybe. Is it my is it because they're pop controlling because there's too many? I believe what you want to believe. I didn't have a lot of success with PSA. I'll just say that. I ended up cracking some of them, some of the 9s, and actually resubmitting or sending them to CGC. So handful of the ones I sold were PSA, but I would say the majority I sold were through CGC. And CGC primarily because even when they are busy, they tend to grade faster than PSA. That's not, a universal truth forever. That's what has happened over the last year or say, I would say. In the same dollar tiers, bulk and then standard, which is like 30, $35, they tend to turn things around faster. Will it always be that way? Is it advisable to grade with CGC? You do what you want with that information, but that's what I have found. Now, the great thing about the Van Gogh Pikachu is it actually sells for a higher premium in a CGC Pristine 10 than it does PSA 10. That is not actually true for all cards in Pokemon. It is true for most modern cards, but it's not always true for most cards to date. It's becoming more and more of an accurate statement, but historically it really depended on the card, the era, and that kind of thing. And also card game as well. That does not apply to most card games. So Van Gogh Pikachu, I'm not sharing specifically the number I sold throughout August, but I am sharing what I sold. So just FYI. So that's one. Another is the Chinese Arcanine from Terrestrial Prism, Terrestrial something. It's the exclusive Chinese Arcanine with a bulb on his head. I didn't design these things, guys. I have no idea. Like, what is this design? Like, he looks like a giant lollipop, right? I purchased 20 of these, and I graded all of them but 4 or 5. And I basically split up the graded ones with CGC across a couple different consigners. And you're probably asking me, why would I do that? Why would you split up across consign? Well, you're probably asking me, why would I consign? The first is consigners generally get better rates than the average person on eBay. I still get the standard 3.5% on eBay. But if I go with my consigners, depending on what I sell at, I would get 10%, 7%, 5%, whatever it is. So that's why I consign. It also removes all the headache from like shipping, managing customers, and that sort of thing. And when you're busy and you have a side hustle, I think, you want to optimize your time as best you can and figure out like what is the best use of your time. For me, sometimes I get burnt out on like shipping and managing. Like, I'll give an example. My local post office, which is my bad, I did not have them scan in a $2,000 package. And lo and behold, that package is nowhere to be found. I can't dispute it because, I can't dispute it because I have no record of me dropping it off. That's not anyone's fault except for mine, but that wouldn't happen if I consigned, right? Anyway, whatever. So I purchased 20. I graded about 16 of them across different consigners. In a CGC 10, it sells for like, I think the highest is like 600s. Mine ended up selling in the 400 to 500s. So I sold a handful of those. I was surprised, honestly, at how well that card grades. I was expecting it to have more condition issues, just because some of the newer Chinese stuff is not coming out to be good quality print. But it ended up working well. Maybe CGC likes to grade these cards. I don't know. So that's the second. The third is Terrestrial Festival SAR Eeveelutions. We got the Cake Eevee, the Leafeon, the Glaceon. I graded all of them basically outside of the Umbreon. And many of these cards I sourced at the beginning of the year, and they had just come back from bulk. So that tells you kind of how backed up PSA has been. These days, though, grading these cards and selling them is generally not really worth it. You might as well just buy the PSA 10 copy with the exception of maybe the Sylveon. The cards are generally higher quality in Japanese than in English, so the gem rate is a bit higher. But I sold through, man, since winter, since Terrestrial came out, probably like 200 or 300 Eeveelution SARs. It was an obvious opportunity back then. Then again, everyone's doing it. I think the Umbreon has a pop 30,000 or something like that already, which is ridiculous. But I sold through a lot of those, and they do sell well. The challenge is, though, that so many people have them, and they basically everyone's undercut each other to the point where there's not a lot of margin left on grading raw copies. I shouldn't say that exactly because there's some margin, but it wasn't as lucrative as a play as when Terrestrial first came out. You could buy the Sylveon for like 70 to $100, grade it, comes back. It was selling for like 250 and then 200 and then 170s, 150. So there was still pretty good margin there. These days, there's some margin left, but it's not really worth it. So I sold through a handful of those. And I should have got rid of them a long time ago. I just had been behind the ball a bit. The fourth, we're going to take a break from Pokemon. We're talking about Final Fantasy. So as you know, as I've talked about this channel, I now serve two audiences, which is odd because the Final Fantasy market video that I uploaded 3 days ago, is doing really well. It has like 5,000 views. Anyway, Final Fantasy. So if you've been paying attention, Final Fantasy had a collaboration with Magic the Gathering. There's a collector's set, a collector's booster box, which has collector-specific cards. And what I did was I bought a ton of boxes, and I ripped up. I have 7 left now because I've rebought in. I ripped up 30 boxes full of packs. It's effectively like, I'm going to say it's like $30,000, right? Opened a lot, got a lot of singles. Now I'm not an investor in Final Fantasy, just to call that out. I am an opportunist in Final Fantasy. And what I did was I bought a ton of collector boxes. I opened them all. Or most of them, because I have some left now. I opened up some booster boxes and I started to sell off the singles. And so really at the start of summer into August, the name of the game for me was grade the expensive cards. I sold through many of them. I have many coming back. Sell through a lot of the playables, and then sell through the collector specific cards. And if you go to my TCG player, which link is down below, all my inventory is still Final Fantasy, but it's Final Fantasy Japanese because that's what I have. That's what I have left to sell on just TCG player. I moved a lot of my inventory to Card Trader, which is they sell for you out of Europe. So not as much English there. I think I'm at like 450 TCG player transactions now since June. But in the last month, I did probably about 100 plus about 30 graded card sales at eBay. So a lot of the sales have been, as for the month of August, has been graded cards, has been the top surge foils. And just to give you a frame of reference, some of those cards at the beginning of August were giving like a 1.5, maybe a little bit higher times multiple over raw. That graded premium is dropping rapidly to the point where some cards don't really have graded premium. And so there are some cards that I will only make 10 maybe 20% on. But all in all, my experience opening Final Fantasy and selling it, it was fun. I honestly don't regret it at all. The margins aren't really there as much anymore, but being part of that audience, ripping that product, buying the singles, selling singles, I think it was a nice side quest of a break from selling Pokemon, because Pokemon is really, sometimes it gets a little dull. I'll be honest. So it was fun to jump into a new game and to chase the top cards. And one of the top cards is a chocobo. It's this bird in the game, and some of the profit margin I had on those cards, I bought those cards between like 1,300 and 1,500, and then after grading, all in cost is 1,600 to 1,900, and I sold many of those cards at. I sold one at like 3,400, and then many of them at like between 3,000 and 3,300. And so, profit margin wise, you're looking at maybe 40%. Wait, that's not 40%. Yeah, net profit margin is probably closer to like 60 or 70%. And I got the timing right, because those cards in a PSA 10 now, they've dropped. All the cards have dropped. Because the graded premium, the desirability for graded cards is just isn't really there. The graded cards are now going for like 23 to 2,500. Some of them go for a little bit more, but most of them are in that range. So I timed it right. I timed it well. I still have some, which is unfortunate. But all in all, I'm not losing money on those cards. It's just, those cards no longer have as much of a premium, and my buying cost, my all-in cost is still pretty low. So the fourth bucket is Final Fantasy, the top cards, chocobos, playable singles. I still have a lot of it to sell through. And right now I'm actually assessing, how much do I keep as like kind of a speculative long-term investment, I guess you will, if you will. But I don't know. I don't really look at Final Fantasy as a something to invest in. It's more so something I want to collect. So I do have goals around like master setting everything. I have most of the cards already. I just need to sit down and actually go through and plug the gaps a bit. And then I have thousands upon thousands of cards that, for someone who doesn't play Magic, it's kind of depressing, because it's just like sitting there, and many of them look great. So the fourth bucket is Final Fantasy. Number 5, the fifth bucket, Scarlet and Violet sealed. Now you're probably asking, why would I sell Scarlet and Violet sealed? I've sold through Scarlet and Violet base, Temporal Forces, Paradox Rift. I did let go of some 151, but I also bought a lot of 151. Paradox Rift, Twilight. There's one more that's missing. And Paldea Evolved. Why did I sell these sets? Now, let me just take a step back. My cost basis for basically all of these sets, the core sets, not 151, is in the realm of $99 to $120. I bought a decent amount of Scarlet and Violet when people didn't want it. Call it investing, call it collecting for the long term, calling it being a crazy degenerate, whatever, right? But I've always bought sets. I say always, but I haven't been doing it as of late. Since Sword and Shield, I've purchased a lot of the sets in booster box and booster box case form, because I generally like Pokemon. And so early on, there was just so many opportunities when the price was low. I remember on TikTok, you could get a Scarlet and Violet base booster box in like the 60s, 70s, 151 UPC, 70s, 80s. How they evolved, 70s, 80s. And this must have been like a year and a half ago, right? Year and a half, 2 years ago? I forget. Even then, right? At that time, when people were poo-pooing on Pokemon because no one liked the sets, the price just felt too low to ignore. And because I am a kind of a hobbyist, and this is a side hustle, like I can afford to wait, right? Because I'm not churning and burning to make profit to pay for bills or anything like that. I can make, high speculative, high collector based plays and opportunities, because like at the end of the day, I can determine how long I want to wait. And that's like the ultimate privilege and the advantage that people who do this as a side hustle have. You can decide how much or how little you want to invest your time into this. Whereas full timers, they can't afford that luxury, right? So I sold through many of these cases. My cost basis was low. And, I think the one thing I've learned being in this space for a long time is, investment content will tell you like you need to buy things and hold them for a long time. Makes sense. Some of the Scarlet and Violet stuff I didn't even hold for like 2 years. And I already doubled up 2.5 times my money. Um, I think if I could shed some kind of advice on that, you're really locking yourselves in for margin goals, profit goals, not timeframes. Timeframes end up being arbitrary because the current state of the market will dictate the current price of the goods. And as long as Pokemon doesn't keep reprinting, then whatever you hold, Paldea Val is a really good example. I I shake my head and cringe a bit when people say you should buy Paldea because imagine what's it gonna do over the next 5 years. I think we would have expected it to be where it's at in 5 years, where it is today, right? And a lot of the supply that's entering the market, it's people who understand like that. That's how it works. Like you can't hold these things forever. Sure, you can try to project out like it grew 5 years. Here's what it is today. Imagine what it'll grow 5 years from now. But I think the unless you can afford to sit on product and you don't care about making money and you don't care about growing your collection, sure, sit on everything for like 10 years if you want. But for me, what I've learned is you got to take the profit when you see it and be okay walking away because the longer some of these things get held, I think price volatility starts to go up more and more. Like you're going to get strong price resistance at 500, 700, 800, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, right? And we saw this for a long time with X and Y boxes, Sun and Moon boxes, Sword and Shield boxes. Like it's not, is this the right way? It's not linear growth. So my advice is like, don't be naive to think like you can just wait another couple of years. Take that money, deploy it somewhere else, diversify your opportunities a bit. And I think what that's allowed me to do is with Sword and Shield. This is where I'm coming full circle on this. I am not going to sell any Sword and Shield. I've already committed myself to not selling it because I think I've rolled over enough profits and my business of cards is sustaining itself. I'm not strapped for cash. I'm spending enough money. I'm making enough money. And when I look at my Sword and Shield, I did sell a chunk of it last year. But when I look at it now, I'm like, oh, I don't need any of this. I don't need liquidate any of this. And so the point is like, you got to get to the point where you have enough cash flow, where you feel good about sitting on certain things. But if you're sitting on certain things in order to generate future cash flow and you don't have adequate cash flow today, I think that is what is going to limit a lot of people's business because you're just going to miss out on opportunities. And the one thing I wish I could do better that I constantly strive to do is I wish I had more capital that I sat on. I wish I had more money to buy collections, to buy sealed, to buy this card or that card that I want. I'm constantly spending, and it's a strength, but it's also working against me in some ways. Anyway, Sword and Shield, Scarlet and Violet, I sold through a lot of it. I think one argument can be made like, why would you sell Scarlet and Violet? It's going up so fast. I get that. I understand that. However, for me, uh, when I bought Sun and Moon, there was heavy price resistance at the $400 to $600 range, and then sub $1,000 range, right? And everything is starting to go up now, but I could not imagine holding some of that stuff for as long as I did. Uh, I could not imagine holding this stuff for as long as I did then with what I have now, because it just would be. I think the moral of the story is you got to afford to be able to do it, and you got to make sure it's not tying up capital that you could be using somewhere else. So that's the fourth bucket. Scarlet and Violet sealed. Am I a buyer of Scarlet and Violet sealed? Yeah, I had mentioned I'm buying 151 and Surging Sparks. I'm still doing that. Still looking for opportunities to do that. But other than that, I'm not touching most of Scarlet and Violet. Actually, there's one thing that came to mind for me. Maybe I shouldn't say it. Maybe I'll get crucified for saying this. Destin Rivals Pokemon Center ETBs. I don't know. 151 PCTBs are doing well. Destin Rivals, it is already at $300 a box. That's effectively 5x of retail, but it's not slowing down. I actually put 6 in my cart at 250 to 270, and when I woke up, only one was left in that price range. So anyway, that's the fourth bucket. I'm fortunate enough that I was able to wait this long, but I was also able to get it early. And I think that's just a testament of like being around the hobby for a long time and being able to say, I believe in the IP. I can afford to spend money in the IP. And as a result, waiting 2 or 3 years has kind of paid itself off. Outside of that, the general fifth bucket really is, it's odds and ends, things that I've graded and things that I've graded and things I have sold through consignment. Sun and Moon tag team cards, Sword and Shield alt arts, Japanese top hits, the most recent sets. One of the big hitters that I bought early but overpaid was the red Victini card from Black and White. In Japanese, it was an event promo. And I bought it when the allocation of 2,000 went out to all the different stores. And then they released like a wave of, I think, 10,000 or something like that thereafter. So I ended up overpaying, but net after grading, I actually made like 10%. So that card in a PSA 10 went from like 2,000 to 1,500 to about 1,400, 1,500 now. I got really lucky because I paid over 1,000 a card early, got it grading, had it come back, consigned it, net fees. I still made a little bit of money. So I sold through, I think I had six PSA 10s. So that's a decent, five decent, five, sorry, this guy gave me the yield. I will take it. 5 PSA 10s, that's a decent chunk of change. And I think that's it. There's more. There's a bunch more. Anyway, if you have any comments or questions about the business, my state of the business, let me know. Happy to help. I hit 30 minutes. I did my part. You can do your part by liking and commenting and subscribing. But that's it. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you for watching. Just want to say thank you for the support, whether you buy or sell or trade with me, or you're watching the channel, liking, subscribing, leaving a comment. Really, all of it means a lot. At the end of the day, just leave a comment and like. That's all you need to do. Means a lot. And yeah, here's to a potentially successful and great September of business selling cards. And yeah, good luck with you. Good luck to you on your adventures, and I hope you do well. My name is Ern. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.